All right, so back with me, I have one of the greatest defensive minds in football of all time, mastermind of the no-fly zone and Super Bowl 50 champion for the Denver Broncos. We have Wade Phillips. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Yeah, thanks, Kay.
Thanks for coming on. It's a pleasure to have you on. I feel like our families have kind of been intertwined for forever. Your dad drafted my dad back in 1979 in the third round, so I always feel indebted to that. And then I've always heard some great stories about your dad and you as well. My dad was actually telling me about your dad the other day and how you guys had a practice one day and it was too hot and your dad walked outside, took off his hat, wiped his brow, and said, "Nope, we're not doing this today."
That's right. Yeah, he said we don't need to practice being miserable.
And I think that's one of the things that we've always noticed with with your teams. You've always had some great defenses, and you've had some of the greatest defensive players of all time. I think I looked at it as like 5 defensive players of the year, 2 defensive rookies of the year. How are you getting the best out of these players?
Well, they were all really good players. I mean, Reggie White and Bruce Smith.
Yeah.
They and JJ Watt, I had him when he was young too. So, and Aaron Donald lately. So, Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware and on and on. Three guys with the older team that your dad was on are in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Curly Culp played nose guard. Elvin Bethea played defensive end, and then Robert Brazil went in a couple of years ago, outside linebacker. So, when I first started, I was around, of course, Earl Campbell on offense. We know that.
Yeah.
But I started, and just having to be around a lot of good players.
Yeah, and you talk about Earl Campbell, and obviously that's one of the reasons why my dad didn't make it in Houston, but he found a great trade partner in Oakland, and it worked out for him over there with Mr. Davis.
I guess it did. He got 2 Super Bowl rings, and we didn't. So,
yeah,
and he had one of the greatest pass receptions of all time. That 80 yarder.
That was awesome.
Yeah, but it took me a long time to get to the Broncos to win one. That's for sure.
Yeah, and you had a lot of those teams that did it, but that Broncos team, I mean, look, me obviously as a Raider fan, it pained me to see the Broncos, but that defense that you had, I mean, the no-fly zone that you orchestrated one of the greatest defenses of all time. I mean, that's definitely a top 10 defense.
Yeah, they were. I think we were number 1 in the league in 19 categories that year, so that was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I look at that team and you guys had Cam Newton just scrambling all over the place, making business decisions left and right, and it was a sight to see, definitely. I mean, to see all those guys flying around.
Yeah, well, we had 7 sacks in that game too, so, and 2 fumble recoveries and 1 for a touchdown. So yeah, we that group, there weren't many teams that were much better than that group ever, really.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, speaking of that group, there was one guy on that team that had a certain issue with one of the players on the Raiders. And there was a couple incidents, and I want to know if you know any of the backstory of that Aqib Talib Crabtree fight, the chain snatch, and anything on that.
Yeah, I mean, Talib just took it personal that somebody come out and put a chain on to play against him, basically. Like, hey, this is going to be easy, or this is like going to the club rather than going to a football game. So I think that was the big part of it. But it rubbed him wrong. He wasn't happy about it. But if you know Aqib, man, he's a wonderful guy. But he's got his ways about him that he's not going to let anybody mess with him.
Yeah, and I think that as a defensive player, you have to have that mentality. I played defensive line in high school and college, and you have to have that. You have to have the mindset that nobody's going to go into your place or do anything, and that you're not going to let anybody run on you, not going to let anybody throw on you. And he did that. He didn't let Crabtree do anything. He took his chain, and I don't think and they got both thrown out that game. So Crabtree didn't get any yards either.
Yeah, he pulled his chain.
Now, my dad told me to ask you about this. And I guess there was a trick play that your dad used to run called the Bum-A-Rooski.
Yep.
He told me to ask you about that one. Can you explain it to me?
Yeah, he started running that when he was in coaching in high school. It was off of basically a fake punt, and he ran it when he was coaching in high school, and then at Texas A&M when he was coaching for Bear Bryant, they ran it against Rice. We ran it a couple of times in pro football. I ran it in high school because I played for my dad, and we ran it and had about a 60-yard touchdown on it. So
Nice.
yeah, it was just people came out with the Fumble-Rooski, where Nebraska, they fumbled the ball and picked it up, but it was with a guard run around. But this was with a back or somebody, and you faked it like you were running to one side, and one guy comes out the other side with it and runs off with it. So it probably still would work.
I'd love to see that sometime. I got to go back and watch some film. I've been trying to catch film of those Oilers teams and get a few of my dad's old snaps. I know he only had a handful of them, but I want to see a couple of them. So tell me, coming up, son of Bum, being in the coaching family, your son has fallen in your footsteps. What got you motivated about coaching? What was it about you that made you want to become a coach?
Well, my dad was a coach, and so
Right.
and like I said, he coached in high school, and he coached me in high school. So um, I just saw how much he loved what he was doing. I'd go down to the field house or be around coaches all the time, so I knew what a coach did. You know, and how much they enjoyed what they were doing. So when it finally came to it, and I knew I wasn't good enough to be a pro football player. I said, well, what am I going to do with my life? And I said, well, I know what coaches do, and I know they like it. So I went into coaching.
And what was your favorite team that you coached?
I don't know. All of them are favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the favorite games now. Your dad won't like this one, but when I was at Kansas, we went to Oklahoma, and they'd won 29 straight games, and we beat Oklahoma in Norman 23-3.
Ooh.
So that was one of my great memories of coaching in college. I was at Oklahoma State, and we won the Fiesta Bowl 2 years in a row. But I went to Kansas, and we ended up playing in the Sun Bowl. But we beat OU in 1975, and they won the national championship that year. We beat them 23-3 in Norman.
Wow.
So they were running the wishbone. So
yeah, and back then that was when Oklahoma wasn't losing many games.
no, well,
Especially
that's what I said. They had won
games.
29 in a row.
Yeah.
When we beat them, and then they didn't win. They didn't lose many after that. But I mean, just my career overall. I've been with a lot of really good teams, and most of the teams I've been with were winners. Won a lot of
Yeah.
games. So that's fulfilling. Being in football is, it's about the competition and all that. But you enjoy winning, and it means a lot to everybody that worked hard, and coaches and players. It kind of brings you together as a family. And like I say, that that Bronco family, we'll always be, have a reunion or something. That we made the greatest accomplishment you could have. And I know your dad gone through it with the Raiders. Going back to see the Raiders play and being part of that group that won a couple of Super Bowls.
Yeah, when you win a champion, I mean, when you reach the mountaintop, that's the ultimate pinnacle. That's what you pay. That's what you play the game for. That's what you coach for. That's what everybody puts the blood, sweat, and tears for. Everybody can say that, it's about, they like the contracts, they like the money, but at the end of the day,
Yeah,
it's about having that hardware. It's about having those rings.
yeah, yeah. And
You know,
I coached high school and college and pro ball, and people talk about money and all that stuff, but before the game, it's exactly the same in all three levels.
Yeah.
Dressing room is exactly the same. They all want to win. They're all excited about playing. They're not thinking about anything but, going out and doing their best. And so that's a neat part of it.
Yeah, that's really cool. And now your son is coaching with the Rams. How long has he been with the Rams now?
This will be his third season. He's going to be the passing game coordinator this year. So
Nice.
he's stepping up too. Hopefully he'll be the third head coach in the Phillips family in the NFL, which would be pretty neat. We'd be the only family that's ever done that. We and the Schulers are the only third generation coaching family.
Wow.
There's been 3 generations of Schulers and 3 generations of Phillips, but he could become. He might be a head coach. Should be a head coach one of these days. And that would be neat.
Yeah, and he's got a new quarterback down there in LA, and Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
And I know the fans are really excited about it. I've talked to some Rams fans, and they're excited about what Stafford brings, and just his arm strength, his durability, the fact that he can play through injury, what he's done over there in Detroit with really, I mean, I think I read a stat that he had a total of 300-yard rushers. And so 300-yard rushing games or something like that. And so, when you've got that and you got a mind like Sean McVay, it's got to be pretty exciting.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think, they'll run the ball a lot better than what they've had at Detroit for sure. And that'll but he's a really good player anyway. He had to carry it all on his back, like you say. That's hard to do for any quarterback, but he did a great job of it. So, yeah, they're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to watching them play.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about it's hard for a quarterback to do it all. We have a quarterback on our team that pretty much has to do it all right now. I know that I was big on the Wade Phillips bandwagon. I was trying to use whatever pull I got to get you over in Las Vegas. But being retired, I know that you've had your idea, your thoughts of coming back. You've kicked it around a little bit. Are you done with football, or what's next?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to get back in once you're out of it. So that's the tough thing. But I think I have something to offer. Maybe somebody will want to, a consultant or somebody that can help that has some experience. I've got a little experience. I've got 42 years in the league, and so and about 34 as a coordinator. So that would, I think I could help somewhere there, but we'll see. See what happens.
Absolutely. And you and your son just started a podcast, right?
Yeah, we're going to start one. I don't know if we can be as good as yours, but yeah, we're working on that. You could probably help us. Let us know how to do some things. We don't know how to do a whole lot. My daughter is also she's editing all of it. She does all that for
cool
dance stuff. She does, so she's good at that. So we're gonna try it and see if anybody wants to listen.
Well, I can tell you that people would love to listen. I told a couple of people that I was having you on, and they were pretty fired up to listen. So, I mean, the stories that you have from over the years, the stories that you have that your son has, the stories that you have of your dad, there's a lot that people will want to hear. So I know that fans will definitely want to hear it. People love to hear football talk from great football minds. I know that I don't want to take too much of your time, but I'd love if you could give us one of your favorite stories from your coaching days.
Oh, wow. I guess, well, one of them about Earl Campbell, one year we had Earl was reporting for camp, and our strength and conditioning guys decided they wanted to have them run the mile instead of run 40s, for see what shape the players were in. Why they wanted to do that, I mean, everywhere I've ever been, they run 40s, and you run back-to-back 40s and see what kind of shape you're in. Well, this year they decided that they were going to have them run the mile to see what kind of shape they're in. So it was tough for all of them, but Earl especially. He had those huge thighs, and so he made about half a mile, and then he stepped off the track, and he's cramping up, and so. So all the press, just like they are nowadays, they run over to my dad, and say, Bum, what are you going to do? He said, Earl didn't make the mile. He said, well, hell, if it's third and a mile, we won't give it to him. He said, but we're going to give it to him the rest of the time.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah. And we did.
Earl, I mean, I watch his film, and he is one of the greatest players I've ever seen run that ball. You know,
Oh,
you look
yeah,
at players nowadays. You got Derrick Henry, you have Marshawn Lynch,
right.
and you know they play like he did, but he started that. I mean, he was the player that he didn't juke anybody. He wasn't going to run around you. He was going to run right through you and run you over.
Yeah, he did that quite often. Yeah, he. You know, one of the players. One year we at Houston we got Dave Casper from the
Yeah,
Raiders, and he came in. Really, it was like in the middle of the season. He came in, and so we started running two tight end offense, and Earl had three straight 200-yard games. Three straight 200-yard games. You know,
man.
so because we'd run that two tight end offense, and
Yeah,
you know, whichever side the safety was on, they just run away from the safety. And of course, Casper was a good blocker too. He was not only
yeah,
a good receiver, but he was a really good blocker too. So that fit in pretty well. And you know, our regrets, only regrets were letting your dad go, and then we also let another guy go that was a pretty good receiver named Steve Largent. He, we also drafted him in the third round one year, and
he had a pretty good career.
yeah, and we let him go, and Seattle got him, and he did pretty good. So
Yeah,
we let some really good players go too. Not only had some really good ones, but let a couple of really good ones get away.
yeah. Well, Coach, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and speak with me. It was great talking football. Hopefully, we get to talk again sometime, maybe during the season when some of the craziness wears off and
Oh yeah,
people can get into games.
yeah.
But for the people that are listening, that are watching this podcast, what is going to be the name of your pod, and then also where can fans find you?
Yeah, I mean, we've done several episodes, but we hadn't put it all together yet. But it's called Wade and Wes Phillips Overtime, and uh, I'm not sure which platform we're going to be on yet, but
Okay,
I imagine it's going to be any of them. So, and it won't. It'll be another month or so probably before we get started.
perfect. And then your Twitter is at Son of Bum,
Yeah,
correct?
I'll announce it on there for sure. I'll
Perfect.
Twitter. If you're a Twitter fan, it'll be on there. So at Son of Bum, you're right.
Perfect. So we look forward to seeing that. Coach Phillips, I really appreciate you coming on again, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
You bet. And say, you know, my regards to your dad too, man. What a great
Thank
guy.
you.
And I know you're proud of him, but we really were too. I mean, he did what we thought he could do when we drafted him, and that's great.
That's awesome to hear. I'll definitely let him know.
All right, super.